So welcome back to my YouTube, guys. I thought I would do something different today just because the last two videos have been training, so I thought today I'll bring you up to speed with sort of like what's been going on, what my plans are, and a general overview of where I'm at currently in my off season. So I've got my phone in front of me just because I've made a few notes to make sure that I try and cover each of the areas. So for the past 17 weeks now, I've been working with Cuba, and my body weight at the start of that time was 124 kg. And for those of you who follow pounds, that's 273 pounds. Currently, at the moment, I'm hovering around 133 kg. So that's 293 pounds. So within those 17 weeks, I've added 20 pounds. And if we're breaking that up over the 17 weeks, that's about a rate of gain of 0.5 kg, which I'm really happy with because it's a nice steady approach, not putting on loads of weight too fast, which is going to accumulate with body fat. So that is definitely a step in the right direction there. I think with that gain has come a different approach this off season. So in terms of food, my macro splits, I try not to get too heavily involved in knowing what those numbers are, just because I don't want to get into my head, this is how much I'm eating, and then sort of like, I don't know, get myself in a bit of a hole where, oh, I've got to eat this many calories. It's just, I get a plan sent over, I look at it, and I stick to that plan. And I find that that works a little bit better for me just doing, as opposed to trying to maybe macro track or fit things in. It's just working a little bit easier for me this year. I would say, I guess, roughly, I must be around 5,000 calories, which for someone my size isn't actually that much, but for someone like me who hasn't got a great appetite, it feels like a lot. So one of the things what I do to really help with appetite is getting in my steps. So I have a step target daily of 7,000 steps. So my general morning routine will be, as I've woken up, I will go on a short walk outside in fresh air for about 15, 20 minutes, just to help with my appetite, get digestion going, and sort of set me up for the day, knowing that there is going to be quite a lot of food coming my way as well. At the moment, in terms of where I'm at with food, we're getting towards the end of the push-up phase. So I've probably got another about 5 weeks in this current bulk, and I know in that time, food is likely going to go higher still, because we really want to try and get closer to that 300 pounds mark. I think last year I was very fixated on, I want to get to 300 pounds. I've never been to 300 pounds before. And when you look at the other open bodybuilders, you think, oh, 300 pounds is almost like the benchmark of where you need to be. And in hindsight now, looking back last year, I think I probably went a little bit too far out in terms of overall size and body composition, which isn't quite me. So we've been very specific with the approach this time, to be very cautious, not to push on or put on too much body fat too soon. So I know for a fact that my protein now is higher than what it's been before. Roughly off the top of my head, from when I've spoken with Cuba, I think it's around the 340 grams of protein foot. So it is high, but for someone my size and of my build, it's needed just to help retain the muscle, and also for recovery as well. Fats this year has been lower as well. Again, I'm not looking at set numbers, but I know that fat is a macronutrient where you need enough for optimal function, but you don't need so much that it's going to then be stored as adipose or fatty tissue. So we've had enough just to help for health reasons, but we've not pushed it higher. The main focus has been on carbs, because that's going to help drive the energy, and that's going to help my performance within the gym. So on that, quite a few people have DM'd me and asked me, what are you doing in terms of your training split this year? Because I think most people know that I was on a very specific training block last year, where I was training legs 3 times a week, where this off season it's completely different. So I'll just run you through my setup. So on a Monday, I train push. On a Tuesday, I'll train full legs. On a Wednesday, it's a rest day, which is my day when I'll normally have a sports massage treatment with Katie Farndon. On a Thursday is when I'll train pull, which is my favourite workout at the moment. And also on a Friday, I will then train legs. and then I've got the weekend off completely. That works well for me just because the weekend off gives me that time to have that with my family. I do have children, so that gives me that time to know that I don't have to go to gym, I don't have to rush around. There was a big, how can I put it? It was a big shift going from training 5 times a week to 4 times a week, because for the longest time I've known, I've always trained like 5 times a week. So when I first started with Cuban, it's like, right, we're going to train 4 times a week. I was thinking, how am I going to progress from 4 times a week from my sessions when I still need to close the gaps and fill out my physique? But the more I've done this routine, because I've been open to it, the more I've realised that I can make the progress, and it's also about recovery outside of the gym. It's not just pounding yourself and your central nervous system doing 5 sessions a week if you're not recovering. So recovery capabilities alongside volume is very important. So legs for me is still the main body part what needs to be brought up. So this is why I'm doing legs twice a week with different exercises, just to target the different areas of my legs what need to improve. And my upper body, although I still need more on my upper, that's tailored to just one push and one pull session. We have spoken further down the line that we would likely go to a 2 days on, 1 off approach, but we're not at that stage yet, so that's not needed just yet. Outside of my steps and my training, I also do cardio. So I'm doing cardio 3 times a week. So I would do that on my push session, on my pull session, and also Sunday, which is a rest day for me. So we try and do cardio away from my training sessions where I'm training legs, and also the day after, again, just to help recovery so my legs can actually recover from what I'm doing in those sessions. So just to put into context, last year, steps, I would say I was very sedentary. So because I was so much heavier, I didn't really want to go out walking. So I could go out walking and I'll get a lower back pump and I'll be like, right, I've got to get back home because this is just too much for me right now. And this year, although walking does get uncomfortable in the sense that I'm heavier, so I'm carrying more body weight, I'm physically able to manage it better because my cardiovascular system is better from doing my cardio, albeit it's 20 minutes 3 times a week with my heart rate between 120 to 130, but my overall fitness has improved. And I think aside from doing the cardio and the walks, sometimes you've got to just accept that off season is going to be uncomfortable. And because it is going to be uncomfortable, sometimes you have to do things that you don't necessarily want to do, but you know you need to do it for the overall bigger picture. And that's the same what goes for me right now with cardio, with the steps, and also when I look at my food, where my appetite is not the best, there's an end goal and there's a purpose for it. So you can't just think, right, okay, I'm going into a competition prep, so I'm going to get everything in order now and get everything straight. The off season is the time to build those habits, build a routine, so when the transition comes for prep, you're already ready and in a routine, so it's not like you're doing anything different to normal other than probably eating less food. So my current plans in terms of where I think I need to improve is my legs, also bringing up my arms, making them a little bit fuller as well to match my shoulder width, and also building my erectors. So you've seen already from some of my videos what I put out. So the leg session what I did with Cuba, we was doing stiff-legged deadlifts, which is going to really build up my erectors. You'll see also from my back workouts how we've changed the angles, and there's a lot more unilateral work to really target specific muscle groups and areas. I think for me, it's not so much chasing that weight where I was doing that last year. It's more as where do I need to improve and close the gaps? And in closing the gaps, that's what's going to give me the overall physique development. So the more you see the content what I put out training wise, hopefully you'll understand a little bit more of the direction I'm going with trying to improve my overall physique and have a more balanced physique. So my plans this year, as much as I would love to compete, it's just not realistic for me. I had that little bit of a setback last year with my knee, And with that in mind, knowing that I still need to bring up my legs and improve my body, I've had to take a longer off season. So next year is going to be the year that I'm back on stage, all being well, and be able to step on stage with an improved physique, because that is always the key, to step on stage better than you were the previous time before. It pains me, to be honest, because I like to compete and I like to get on stage and display my physique to the fullest. But with doing that, you've also got to be realistic. I think looking at the guys in the top and who I competed against last year, I know there's still a gap to close for me and improve. It's not so much trying to be like other people, because I think in this sport you can get quite lost in thinking, well, this person's doing this person's looking like that. It's about what you need to do to improve for yourself. So training wise, what is different this time round also is the fact that with my training now, the most sets that I do is 2 for my working sets in the exercise. If I've done one exercise to complete failure, for example, if I do a pendulum squat, sometimes I'm absolutely buried and I can't get back out of the hole, then I will leave that set there. And this is something what I've come to know, that if I push myself to the max, is it going to be beneficial for me to then take a second set? Probably not. I can save that and move that on to a next exercise to get more from another exercise. And I think this comes with time. When you've been training for a while, you sort of know when you've taken yourself to true failure. And when you've hit that point, you don't have to spend more time doing extra sets, because those sets aren't necessarily going to be productive. So that's again going back to the whole 4-day split approach, is you can still get a lot of progress from 4 days in a week if you make sure that you're really nailing those sessions. So for my upper sessions, because I would say that my upper body's a bit more developed than my lower, with only 1 session a week, I've got to really make sure that I'm maximizing those 1 sessions, because if I miss and I don't get that session right, I've got to wait a whole week before I get another shot at that. Whereas with legs, I've got 2 opportunities to progress and build my physique up. One of the things what I like about this year is I'm looking more at my form and execution. This has taken me back to basics. Like, I know how to train. I know how to train with intensity, and I know how I like to train, because it's what gives me the most enjoyment. But there's been a lot of back and forth, and still now, where I'm sending over clips over to get feedback on how can I make this better, how can I get better at exercises. And for me, it's always about getting those extra 1%. So it's not just from a training perspective, it's about, right, how can I get more recovery? Right, I need to go to bed earlier. Right, okay, my cardiovascular system isn't as good. What do I need to do? Right, well, 15 minutes cardio isn't enough. Maybe I need to do 20 minutes. So it's always about looking at the bigger picture. How can I be a better athlete? And I think from this year, what I've wanted to do is taken a step back from not be as involved in the process, but it's more like, this is the process, you go and do it. And I think for anyone who's up and coming and you're watching what other people are doing on social media and you're thinking, this is the way I've got to do, I would say be open-minded and also think about what is it I need and what do I need to do to get the most from my own progress. Because just because someone's doing 3 leg days a week, I'll use myself as an example, it doesn't mean necessarily you have to do that. You need to look at your physique on a whole and think, right, okay, my legs are at a good point, but maybe I need a bit more in the upper. So it's about focusing your attention to what's really needed. And I think that's something this off season that I've been paying more attention to. And with the support of my coach as well, it's more of, we've got to be more specific. How can we get more from each exercise? How can we get more from a better routine? And these little things, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. Once you put them all together, it creates the whole picture, and that picture is going to help the end goal, which is further progress. So I've got to admit, this off season right now, I'll say it's probably one of the most challenging, not just from the point of I'm learning and doing things differently, but the first part of the off season I found very challenging in the sense that I was coming back from a knee injury, and it took me, I've not really spoke about it openly, but it's took me a long time to get back to what I would say is the level that I need to be training at. And in going through that process, it was definitely a struggle. So even going to the gym to train legs and knowing that, right, I'm on a leg extension and I can only use the second pin down, and knowing that's something where I could probably stack that machine normally, it's like that was a big mental barrier that I had to come through. And with going through that now and where I am, I can look back and say, right, this is something that I've never been used to before, but because I've been through it now, I can relate to other people who might have those same struggles. And if you're someone now who's in that same position, I'll say it doesn't last forever, and you can get through it, but you still got to be on the variables what you can control. So if something's taken a hit, for example, for me it was my training with lower body, what can I still do to help my own progress? And that's what's still within my control. So eating your food, getting good rest, drinking your water, all of those things still count. And when the time comes for you to be firing again and get back to the level you want to be at, once those other variables are in place alongside your training, everything's just going to flow well. So one of the differences this off season as well is that I'm no longer macro tracking. Last year I did that, and it allowed me the extra freedom to get meals in, have a bit more flexibility, which I liked. But I think with doing that, I probably missed out. Well, I definitely missed out on having some of the key nutrients in foods that I really needed, just because I was trying to hit calories. Where this time around, I've got a set plan in place. And for me, I find that a little bit easier because I don't have to think. I don't have to think on the spot and try and make calories or macros fit or match. So when I first started off, I had 6 meals a day, which seemed like a big ask because I was on 5 meals before when I was doing it myself. With the 6 meals, it meant that structure had to be, and routine had to be really, really on point. So I'm talking about getting up just after 5 o'clock in the morning to make sure that I've got my morning steps in, I've done my cardio to get the meals started on time, and so it's not going to set me back. The more I did it, the more I got accustomed to the routine and the more it felt fine. I would say where it started to hit a bit of a wall was around training. So I would have 3 meals before training, and I would get to the gym, and the routine with training, mobility, posing, it started to take a bit of a hit. So I could sometimes be leaving the gym and getting back from the gym about 5:30, and getting back from the gym at 5:30, knowing that I then had another 3 meals to still get in, was a massive ask, especially when I'm supposed to be going to bed around 9:30 or just before 9:30. It was just became impossible and a bit unrealistic. Tried adjusting the routine to try and make things fit a little bit better with getting to the gym earlier, but I still found that I was starting to struggle. And in struggling, I found myself going back to old ways, which I'm not ashamed to admit, where I would finish training and think, right, well, I've got 3 meals still to get in, but maybe I should combine 2 meals and make it into like a drink and drink it. And that's not something I necessarily wanted to do. So that's the conversation I had with my coach, and I was honest about it. I said, look, this doesn't seem to be quite working for me. And I do want to be eating my whole meals as opposed to drinking it just for digestion purposes. What can we do differently? So we've actually reverted back to 5 meals. These 5 meals feel a lot more manageable for me. Granted, it is bigger meals, but for me, for my peace of mind, knowing that, right, this fits better with my routine, it's a lot more manageable. And I think for anyone who's in off season and you're consuming a lot of calories, I would always say try and get these calories from whole foods as opposed to thinking, right, I'm going to go out and just eat some fast food, or I'm going to go and eat something what isn't a better option to help with your overall physique development, because I feel like you're going to be selling yourself short. And that's an important message to get out there, is eat your food and not drink your food. Aside from that, one of the biggest things is, because I am eating a fair amount of food, is water intake. So my target is 6 litres a day. So you can imagine drinking 6 litres a day alongside having 5 meals, which are around 5,000 calories. it's quite a lot to get in. So I find that for myself pretty difficult. Although I'm active, I'm in the gym, I'm training, I've got like 1.5 litres when I'm training. And when I'm going on my morning walk, I've already had some water as well. To keep on top of that water intake, I find that probably one of the hardest things alongside food, because if my stomach's quite full from the water, then how am I supposed to get this food in as well? And my sitting down eating food, I could literally be there for 45 minutes eating a meal just because that's how long it takes. And I'll be honest, off season is uncomfortable. I don't want to be sitting at the table for 45 minutes eating my food, but this is what it takes. And if this is what's going to take me to that next level and get me to where I want to be in terms of like winning shows and competing on the Olympic stage, this uncomfortable stage right now is something is what I've got to go through. So although I'm not competing until next year, there is still time within the off season. So I'll do a 20-week push-up. So I've still got some weeks to go. There will be a time when I pull back on calories, which I'm looking forward to. But that pullback in calories will just give me a chance to help my digestion and help me to reset and actually get me back in a better place with appetite. So although for now I'm not enjoying that extra food, I know it's not going to last forever, but I also know that this is what it's going to take for me to crack on and get to that next level. I think for anyone who's been in off season for long enough, you'll know that you get tired quite quickly from the amount of food you eat, and I'm no different. I generally have a nap each day pre-training just because it helps me with my energy levels. But I can literally wake up in the morning, I've done my morning routine, I've done my cardio, I've done my steps, done some client work, and I'm pretty much ready for a nap. But with that comes discipline. So I can't necessarily go and have a nap at like 8 o'clock in the morning because it's not realistic. Even if I've been up from 5:30, I've got work to do. Staying in a routine is something what's really important. Sometimes you have to do things you don't necessarily want to do, but you've got to think about what it is, what's bringing you your bread and butter, what's putting your food on the table. You've got clients waiting for a reply. But for me, something what I definitely need to have a day, what really helps is a nap. You'll find once you're in your off season and you're pushing up food that you can get quite sluggish and you feel quite sluggish. And until something like a pullback happens where the calories drop down, you're not going to feel any better. But it's one of these things where you've got to ride that wave, because you'll never progress if you're going to be like, oh, I can't eat this because I'm full, or I can't eat this is too much. It takes a different sort of mental toughness to be able to break that barrier. Just like when you're dieting or if you're in a prep phase, when food gets super low, you know about it. And it's the same in off season. When food gets super high, you also know about it. I'm no different. I find that the naps do help, but it still doesn't make it any better knowing that I am feeling heavier. But this is part and parcel of the process, and I'm a professional bodybuilder. I'm very blessed to be in this position. From I think about 2016, that was the point when I really wanted to be a professional bodybuilder, and to be in a position I am in now, with the sponsors trained by JP, the support that I get, where I can actually live this dream, what I think is a dream and it's a blessing. I really can't complain, because when you have a goal and you have something set out in front of you that you want to achieve, and when you start to tick them off one by one, you definitely get a sense of satisfaction and achievement. And I'm no different with that. I've still got big goals that I want to achieve in this sport. My next one, I'll put it out there, I really, really want to win a pro show. I would love to know what it feels like to walk on that Olympic stage and compete against the best bodybuilders in the world. And that's not going to happen without going through these moments now in the off season. So I'm embracing it. It's tough, but this is part and parcel of the process, and I'm here for it. So I think I spoke quite a bit in this YouTube. If you guys have anything you would like to see in terms of content, want to know more information about, you can feel free to put it in the comment section, reach out to me in my DMs, Instagram, whatever it might be. If you see me in the gym, feel free to ask me, because I think in taking you on this journey in this off season, because I want to try and keep you guys in the picture of what I'm doing. I want you guys to tell me what you would like to see as well, because I think it makes it a little bit more interactive and it gives you guys a more of an insight into me as a person as well. So I appreciate you watching this. On a separate note, I've just hit 100k followers on Instagram, which for me is a massive achievement. I remember when I first started out in bodybuilding in 2012, it was my brother who said, right, you've competed now, you want to show, you need to have Instagram and Twitter, because they were both the main social media platforms at the time, and I had no clue about it. So to still be here years later and to have this following, and I'm sure many of you now who's watching my YouTube has probably been following my Instagram as well. I appreciate you all. It does mean a lot. I'm here to try and show you my journey, and if I can inspire and help anyone along the way, I'm all for it. So I do appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share any content or reach out at any point. And I'm sure I'll be back very soon, and probably next time it will be in the gym.